Hey guys, welcome back to the GearsNTool channel, and today we're reviewing Nitecore's E4K LED flashlight. It's a 4,400 lumen flashlight with 4 LEDs in the head, and it's a pretty nice size. So I went ahead and picked one up, and we're going to go ahead and do a full detailed review on it today. So let's go ahead and take a look at the size and weight of this thing. So this light is 2.9 ounces when empty, and it is 5.2 ounces with the battery inside. It's 4.63 inches long. Opening this light up, we can see that it's all aluminum construction on the inside and just a simple black anodized finish. So pretty typical of Nitecore's other lights, and it doesn't disappoint here. The light feels very rugged in your hand. It doesn't feel like it's going to be easily damaged if you dropped or kick it around. The knurling on this light isn't overly aggressive. It's aggressive enough it's not going to slip out of your hand when it gets wet, but it's not going to tear your hand up either. I would have personally preferred to have a little bit more knurling, but I'm used to things like weightlifting bars and stuff like that. So I think it's going to work for most people's use cases. Let's go ahead and see what else comes in the box when you order one of these lights, and then we'll come back to the details of how this light works and its performance characteristics. The first item is the sheath, or the holster that you can attach to the belt. It's pretty simple. The loop here just velcros to the back of the case, and then we have a plastic loop up here to attach to things like your pack. Then we have a pocket clip that just clips onto the light. It fits really snugly. You don't feel like it's going to pop right off or anything. So overall, pretty good pocket clip. We have a lanyard or a wrist strap. One downside about this particular lanyard is there is no attachment point for it on the light. On the other version of this light, the I4000R, the tail cap has a hole in the side of it, but since this doesn't have the tail cap on it, it's just a flat end piece, there's no way to attach the lanyard. So the way I think you're supposed to do it with this particular light is the pocket clip has a couple holes in it that you can thread the lanyard through. Not the most ideal way of doing it, but it is usable. Also includes a battery adapter. This is so you can use the classic CR123 batteries or the 18650. One downside of the battery carrier is the turbo mode will not work on a flashlight. So ideally you'll be using the rechargeable light that comes with the light, but if you have a bunch of these batteries just laying around, it makes for a good backup option in case the rechargeable battery dies on you while you're out and about. Then you have the short USB-C charging cable. This one's only about 1.5 feet long or so, but it's actually pretty good for a backup cable to throw in your pack to use with a portable battery or something like that. I just use my cell phone charger to charge this particular light, but it is nice that you do get a short one in the box. And finally, you get a spare O-ring, which is kind of nice. They're not very expensive for Nitecore to include in the box, and I have actually torn an O-ring before, not on a Nitecore product, a different brand, but it's pretty inexpensive for them to do, and it comes in handy if you actually end up damaging your light. So as you can see, Nitecore does a pretty good job kitting out their lights. Unlike other manufacturers like Leatherman, who make multi-tools, if you want anything, you have to pay extra. So I'm really glad to see Nitecore gives you a complete package when you pick one of these up. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at how we charge this light. Unlike some of Nitecore's other products, you can't just plug it into the side of the light or anything. You actually have to unscrew the tail cap to get to the battery, which has the USB-C port built right in. You just plug it in. And the little indicator light grows. To check the charge status of your battery, just press the on button, and it'll blink up to 3 times. 3 times is over 50%, 2 times is under 50%, and 1 time is under 10%. The lights will also blink right after you install a battery. To lock this light out so it doesn't inadvertently come on in your pack or something when you're traveling, just take the tail cap and twist it a 1/4 turn. The light will no longer function. The downside of this is you lose your waterproof rating on this. If you loosen the cap up, obviously water can't get in there. It is a IP68 rated flashlight, which means it can go down to 2 meters for 30 minutes. So definitely splash proof and stuff like that. So you can drop it in 6 feet of water and it should last for at least 30 minutes. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into the available brightness modes that this light comes with. First, to turn on, we just hold down the side button, and it turns on into the last mode that you were using. So if I had this on the low mode, it would come back on the low mode. So the memory feature is kind of nice. To cycle through the modes, we just 2-press the side button, and then it will start cycling through the different modes. Ultra low, low, medium, high, and turbo. The ultra low mode is only 1 lumens, but will last you up to 30 days, which is pretty impressive. The next mode is low, is 50 lumens, and will last up to 45 hours. Then the medium mode is 320 lumens, which will last up to 7 hours and 15 minutes, which is really good for a 300 lumens flashlight. This is the mode I typically run it on because it provides an adequate amount of light while not burning the batteries up too quickly. And then if I need a quick burst of light, I just hold the turbo button down for the 4,400 lumens. Now high is 1,050 lumens, which is pretty darn good. And this still lasts 3 hours and 15 minutes. So that 5,000 milliamp hour battery really packs a lot of energy. I know it's kind of hard to see on my table here just how bright this is. We will take this out back later tonight and use our testing wall to show you just how different these brightnesses really are. And then finally, like I said earlier, if we just hold down that mode button, it goes into the turbo mode. Now you have to hold this button down, and in my experience, it'll last up to about 30 seconds before it gets kind of warm and starts throttling back down to just the high mode. But if you just need something to quickly reach out and check, like in a parking lot, or if you're in the woods and you think you see something over the hill, that turbo mode will really reach out there and touch what you're trying to get to. The range on this Nitecore is saying is about 211 meters. I don't know how to calculate that, but I did do some testing with the turbo mode, and out in the field, it really reaches out there and fills the area of light. So we'll do some testing outside in just a little bit so you can see for yourself the differences between the modes. Now, I know what some of you guys are going to say. You're going to say 30 seconds for turbo mode. That doesn't feel like a very long time. And that's not because the battery is limited. It will run up to about an hour and a half in burst. But the problem is you're kind of fighting the laws of physics. The light just gets really hot in turbo mode because of the amount of energy it's putting off. To demonstrate just how hot this light gets, I got my temp gun out and pointing it at the bezel. We're coming in at about 133 degrees, which is pretty hot. Even the back of the light, which isn't putting off any light, gets pretty warm. So this is about 87 degrees on the back. Even after handling it for a little bit, the head of the light's still over 100 degrees. So the turbo mode has less to do with how powerful the light is, but more to do with not damaging the components in this package. When you cram this much energy into something this small, it's going to be really hard to dissipate the heat without adding some fans and stuff like that, making it really bulky and losing the waterproof rating. And that's another reason I like to run this light in 320 lumens mode. If you're running it in the 1050 mode or the 4400 mode, it gets hot pretty quick and it gets uncomfortable to hold, and you're just really burning up your battery. So in the 320 lumens mode, you can basically run indefinitely and it doesn't get that warm. Okay, so now that we've unsuccessfully tried to melt this flashlight down, let's go ahead and get into the 3 different special modes. To get into the special modes, we triple press the side button, so 1, 2, 3. The first mode here is strobe, which is very much seizure inducing. If we hold down the side button, we'll get into the next mode, which is the SOS mode, so 2 short, 2 long blinks, or 3 I should say. And then if we press hold again, we have the beacon mode, which is just a quick blink every 5 seconds or so, 3-5 seconds. And this beacon mode will last a pretty long time. One thing I want to say about the special modes of the flashlight, the light will not remember the last special mode you were using. So I just had this on beacon mode, I come back to turn it back on, and it goes back to whatever the last normal mode I was using. And in this case, it was the 1050 lumens mode. There is one more programmable mode with this light. With the light turned on, you unscrew the tail cap, and then when you screw the tail cap back in, you'll see it blinks once or twice to tell you if it's in normal or tactical mode. All right guys, that was a quick walk around with the light. Let's go ahead and take it outside and do some beam testing so you can see just how bright this thing is and what the beam throw looks like. And then we'll come back with our final takeaways. All right guys, so we're in my backyard, aka the testing area. Let's go ahead and turn the light on to 1 lumens, which as you can see, you can't really see on that back wall, but if I put my hand in front of the camera, you can see well enough to probably do a little bit of reading. If you're trying not to blow out your night vision entirely, this would be a good setting. Let's go ahead and bump it up to the low setting, which is 50 lumens. All right guys, so here we have 50 lumens. As you can see, kind of up close, on the ground in front of me and the fence on the right and the house on the left, you can see a little bit of detail, but it's not quite powerful enough to reach that back wall yet. So let's go ahead and bump it up to 320 lumens, which is the medium setting. All right guys, so here is the medium setting, and as you can see, it's definitely much brighter than the 50 lumens. You can see some detail on that back wall. The side of the house is very visible. The things on the ground in front of me are easy to see. So let's go ahead and bump it up to the high setting, which is 1050 lumens. All right guys, here's the high setting, and as you can see, it is basically lighting the entire area up. It's super bright. No problem seeing that back wall. Something I do want to point out is the hotspot is super wide on this, which makes sense because it has 4 LEDs. It's very diffused. So it's a very floody light. It really covers a lot of area. So it's not going to have that super tight hotspot that's really piercing like other flashlights might, but this light is so powerful, it doesn't really need it. It can light up the entire side of my house. The entire back fence or wall is super easy to see. Very powerful light. I'm pretty impressed. So let's try the turbo mode out. And that is turbo mode, and it literally looks as bright as the sun. And again, like I was saying earlier, there's not a real obvious hot spot in the light. It's a very floody light, which kind of floods the entire area with a good amount of usable light. There's the side of my house, super bright. The entire yard is just filled with light. I'm sure my neighbors are kind of wondering what I'm doing over here, but yes, super powerful. Back down to 1050 lumens, more than enough for most use cases. Just for fun, let's see what the strobe mode looks like. Yeah, the strobe mode really fills the entire yard, super disorienting. That would definitely be a challenge for somebody to overpower you with that in their face. So that's the light, guys. Let's go back inside and we'll kind of wrap this up. All right, guys, so now that we've wrapped up the testing, let's go ahead and kind of dive into the pros and cons of this light and who I think it's for. The first pro is just how compact and lightweight this light is. I mean, just a couple years ago, you'd have to have something the size of a mag light to be putting out these kinds of outputs. So super impressed with that. I also like that Nitecore comes with all the features you need. Things like pocket clips and all that, they don't cost extra. They come bundled with the light itself, so you don't have to go spend more money after you just purchased one of their products. Another pro is just how long the run times are with this light. At 1 lumens, you run 30 days, which granted 1 lumens isn't the most useful, but even at 320 lumens, you're getting over 7 hours of runtime, which is pretty remarkable. And the light is very competitively priced for the amount of output this has and the build quality that you get when you pick up one of these Nitecore lights. It's really hard to beat for the price. As I've been using this light for the last couple of weeks, I've been trying to come up with a couple cons, but there really aren't very many things to complain about with this light. One downside is you don't get the tail cap with this particular light, but Nitecore makes this exact light with the tail cap. It's called the I4000R, so it's kind of hard to knock them for not providing a tail cap when they make one. Another con to this light is there's no way to charge it from the exterior of the light like there are on some of their others. You have to physically take the battery out and plug it into a USB-C. This is a minor hassle, and I think people are more likely to use this light until it's dead before they try to charge it. Where if you had like a magnetic charger on the tail cap or just a plug in the side of the light, you're more likely to keep it topped off. Another con is the user interface of this light. It's a little bit clunky because you're doing everything through one button, which that's kind of be expected, but it would have been nice if they could have come up with something that was a little bit more clever. And the final con that I came up for this light is while the tail cap has a spring in it, the head of the light does not. And the downside to this is if the light is dropped or hit, it may flicker because as the battery bounces around in there, if there's no spring in the head of the light here, it won't maintain electrical contact. All right, guys, so with all that out of the way, who do I think this light is really for? Well, I think if you're a duty person, a security officer, a police officer, something like that, this is going to be a great option. Someone who uses the light frequently, this is going to have excellent runtime and have a tremendous amount of power. If you're just carrying it in your pocket and use it occasionally, I think a little bit smaller light like the MH12S might be just a little bit better fit. That being said, if you carry a backpack frequently, this would be an excellent light to put into your backpack, your bug out bag, or your camping kit. Me personally, I'm going to be keeping this light in my garage. That way, whenever I walk out into my backyard, I can light the whole backyard up and see exactly what I need to. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button below. It helps the channel out a lot. And if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you're the first to be notified when I release new videos just like this one. Also, in the video description below, you'll find a link to my Amazon store where you can find recommended products and a list to all my YouTube gear I use to make every video. Cheers!